Look up on a clear day, and you may see a jet drawing a bright white line across the blue sky. Sometimes the line disappears almost as soon as it forms. Sometimes it stays for hours, becomes wider, and slowly turns into something that looks like an ordinary cloud. So what is that white line, and why do only some airplanes seem to leave one? The short answer is surprisingly simple. The airplane is making a tiny cloud. Its proper name is a condensation trail, usually shortened to contrail. A jet engine burns fuel, and that process produces several things, including heat, water vapor, and very small particles. High above the ground, where commercial airplanes cruise, the surrounding air can be extremely cold. When the hot, moist exhaust mixes with that cold air, the water vapor cools quickly. It condenses onto tiny particles and then freezes into ice crystals. Millions of those ice crystals reflect sunlight, allowing us to see a white trail from the ground. It is similar to seeing your breath on a cold morning, but there is an important difference. The visible mist from your breath is mostly made of tiny liquid droplets. A contrail at cruising altitude is mainly made of ice crystals, much like a high, thin cirrus cloud. This also explains why an airplane can cross a clear patch of sky without leaving any visible line. The engine is still producing water vapor, but the air around it may be too warm or too dry for a contrail to form. The weather at 30,000 feet can be completely different from the weather you feel on the ground. A warm, dry afternoon below can still have a very cold, humid layer high above. That hidden layer decides whether the sky gets a white line. It can even make a contrail appear to start and stop suddenly. The airplane has not switched its engine off in the middle of the sky. It has simply flown into or out of a pocket of air with the right temperature and moisture. Now consider the second mystery. Why do some trails disappear in seconds while others remain? Again, humidity is the key. In dry upper air, the ice crystals quickly change back into invisible water vapor, so the trail fades. In very humid air, the crystals can survive and collect more water from the surrounding atmosphere. The contrail then persists, spreads with high-altitude winds, and may become contrail cirrus. By that stage, it may no longer look like a neat line at all. It can turn into a wide, soft cloud that is difficult to distinguish from natural cirrus. Wind can also bend a line, pull it apart, or move it far from the aircraft that created it. That is why a trail viewed from the ground does not always sit directly behind a plane for very long. The pattern in the sky is really a record of both air traffic and invisible atmospheric conditions. Straight lines usually follow a normal flight path, while curved lines can come from turns or holding patterns. Several crossing lines may simply show that different flight routes pass through the same cold, humid region. Contrails are more than a visual curiosity because persistent ones add cloud cover to the atmosphere. Clouds can reflect incoming sunlight, but they can also trap heat that would otherwise escape from Earth. For persistent contrails, research indicates that the warming effect is generally stronger overall, although the exact impact depends on place, time, and conditions. That is why scientists and aviation agencies are studying ways to reduce the most climate-relevant trails. One idea is to adjust a flight path slightly, so an aircraft avoids a narrow region where persistent contrails are likely. Another area of research is cleaner fuel that produces fewer soot particles, giving ice crystals fewer places to form. The challenge is finding solutions that work reliably without creating larger costs or extra emissions somewhere else. The next time you see a white line in the sky, you can read it differently. It is not smoke hanging behind the airplane, and it is not a line painted onto the blue. It is a narrow cloud of ice, created when an engine passes through exactly the right part of the atmosphere. Its length, shape, and lifetime reveal something about cold and moisture in air that we cannot otherwise see. A familiar mark above us is really a small weather experiment happening at hundreds of miles per hour. That's all for today's episode. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
For the full script and fresh daily news English, visit atozpodcast.com. Follow every line, check useful expressions, practice speaking, and come back each day to turn today's stories into English you can use.